Hello, this is the third part of the video series on how to create a Unity third-person controller. In the previous videos, we learned how to create a camera rotating around the player and also created the player movement, gravity, and a lot of different things. In this video, I'm going to implement the jumping into our game and also create two different modes for our camera. So to start, let's go to our code and go to Update Movement here. We're going to implement jumping right over here, but first we need to define some variables. Here I'm going to define a float and name it jump speed. Now let's go to update movement here and we're going to check if the player pressed the jump button or not. So we're going to check get button down for the jump, and we also check if the player is grounded or not. As you know, in Unity, there are already some defined inputs here in the project settings input. There are vertical and horizontal and mouse X and mouse Y that we defined in the previous videos. This is jump. The space key has been defined for it here. You can also create your own keys, but for now we're just going to use the default jump value here. We're also going to check if it's grounded, and if everything is in order, we're just going to add the jump speed to the y-axis of our velocity. So that's it. Let's go and play the game. As you can see, when I hit the space button, it's just going to jump. So here, as you can see, whenever we move the camera around, the player's forward is not going to change. Whenever we move, then the player is going to look at the direction of our movement. So as you know, in most role-playing games, this is the standard way to go for camera movement. But in some other games, the camera is going to control the player rotation. Whenever we rotate around, player is going to rotate with the camera regardless of player moving around or not. Also, sometimes when the player, for example, goes into combat or something, we need to lock the player on the target. So we need to make sure the player always looking at its target. So there's a lot of different modes that we could implement into our camera. But let's go back to our code actually. I'm going to go to my camera region, here the camera region. Let's actually collapse the movement region for now. Go to camera region and I'm going to create an enum here. We're going to create two modes for now. One is free and another is fixed. Let's go ahead and create a variable for our camera mode here under camera settings. And let's go to update movement. Before that, let's actually collapse the camera region. Let's go to the movement region and update movement. Here, we're going to change this line here. So first, we're going to check the camera mode. So if the camera mode is free, then we're going to use this code here. Let's actually cut all of that and place it here. And here we're going to use an else statement to check if the camera is fixed. So here in the free mode, we use the camera direction and input direction together to determine the movement direction, but here we move relative to the direction of our player. So if we're moving, we're going to use the input to move the character, but we're going to rotate the character regardless of moving or not. If the camera is moving, the player is moving too. So here, regardless of moving outside of the move condition, we're going to get the camera direction set to y to 0, and here we're going to lerp the rotation of our player, which is the transform.rotation. We're going to lerp that towards the direction of the camera, look rotation of the camera direction, using rotate speed multiplied by time.delta time. So let's go back to our game. I'm going to play the game. As you can see, I can move around as a third-person controller with a free camera. But now let's go to the player here and change the mode. Here, as you can see in the camera setting, the mode is free. Let's change it to fixed. And here, when I move the camera around, the player's going to move with that. And as you can see, I can move around like this, and the camera is fixed. We could also add another mode to the camera, and we call it target mode. Or we can even name it locked mode. That's even better. So lock mode, it requires a target. So let's go to camera settings, and here I'm going to add another variable. And I'm going to name this variable to camera lock target. Let's go back to our update movement. And here we're going to add another else if. But in order to use the camera mode locked, we need to have a target, a lock target. So to make sure we have a target, we go here in the first statement when we check if the camera mode is free, and we're going to open some parentheses here. And here I'm going to say or, and here I'm going to say if the camera mode is equals to locked and camera locked target equals to null. So whenever our camera mode is locked and the camera locked target is null, just use the free mode because we don't have a target to lock on. So probably user put the mode unlocked by mistake or something, but we're going to ignore that. We're just going to use the free camera. So let's go back to our locked mode here. I'm just going to copy everything for the fixed mode. I'm going to copy everything and paste it here in the locked mode as well. And here, for the rotation of the locked mode, instead of using the camera forward, I'm going to say target camera locked target dot position minus transform dot position, and I'm going to rename this camera direction to locked direction or even target direction. And here everything else is the same. Let's go back. I'm just going to create some cylinder and move it right over here. Let's check out the player. Here in the camera mode, I'm setting that to locked, and I'm going to set this guy as the target. Here is the target, camera lock target, and let's play. As you can see, the player always looking at target regardless of the camera position. But as you probably find out by now, that when we hit the keys, the movement is not in the direction of the keys. So let's go back to the code. Let's go back to free, and I'm just going to copy the move input of our free mode here, because this is the move input we want here for the free, and get back to the locked and replace it with this one. just going to delete that and paste the code we brought from the above. Let's save this and try this again. As you can see now, we could easily move around in the direction of our input and the camera and always look at the target. You could also change the mode anytime, and it's just going to snap out of the locked mode and ignores the target. You could also change the mode to fixed and just move around like this without any problem. So this is it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to create a crouch mode for your player so it could crouch and stand up again. I will also define more variables for character speed to determine different movement speeds. For example, if your character is walking, running, or sprinting, we could define different variable for it. So please hit the thumbs up if you liked the video. Please subscribe to support me. And if you had any questions, ask me in the comments or send me an email. Thank you for watching.